You know, usually when we talk about our lifespan, there is this built-in assumption of abundance.
Right. Like we have all the time in the world.
Exactly. You spend a little here, waste a little there, and you just assume there's always going to be plenty left for the important stuff later.
Yeah, but then you step into the world of ancient Vedic mathematics,
Mm.
and, well, that biological bank account gets heavily audited.
Oh, heavily.
I mean, if you look at the strict clinical mathematics of our lives that are laid out in today's sources, you actually only have about 10 years of fully capable conscious life.
It is a terrifyingly precise calculation, honestly. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone.
Yeah, we operate under this, comforting illusion that the road ahead is endless. But these texts map out exactly how much time is being stolen from you every single day.
So our mission today is to unpack this really fascinating stack of sources that decode this exact math. We are looking at ancient Vedic scripture, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are also pulling in Ayurvedic biological science and looking through some very compelling modern presentation notes that synthesize all of this.
Yeah, it is a really unique blend of materials.
It is. But before we get into that shocking 10-year countdown, there's a unique aspect to our source material today that we really need to address. The presentation notes actually use AI-generated multimedia, like artwork and music, to illustrate these ancient teachings.
Right, which can initially sound like a jarring collision of worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, mixing ancient sacred texts with artificial intelligence raises a lot of questions about authorship and spiritual purity.
Yeah, exactly. So how do the sources justify bridging that gap?
Well, they're very clear on how to frame this. The AI is purely what they call a digital typesetter.
Okay, a digital typesetter.
Yeah, if you think about the invention of the printing press, right? The press itself has no consciousness, no devotion, no spiritual potency. It is literally just dead matter mechanically arranging ink on a page.
Right, it does not know what it is printing.
Exactly. And the AI operates the exact same way. It is a flawless mechanical carrier wave. Or, think of it like a digital microphone.
So the true author isn't the machine at all.
Not at all. The true author remains Vyasadeva, the ancient sage who originally compiled these Vedic texts thousands of years ago.
Oh, I see.
The human user today is just meticulously editing the AI's prompts, almost like a surgeon using a scalpel. I mean, in the hands of a thief, a scalpel can destroy, like we see with deceptive deepfakes.
Yeah, for sure.
But in the hands of a surgeon, it heals. The technology is treated as a blank canvas that is aggressively policed by the user to ensure the timeless tradition remains perfectly intact and pure. The machine is never allowed to dictate the spiritual standards.
That makes total sense.
No.
So with that foundation laid, let's look at this clinical math of the human lifespan.
Let's do it.
The sources lay out a theoretical maximum lifespan of 100 years. Now, brace yourself for this subtraction. Out of those 100 years, exactly 50 years are immediately lost to sleeping 12 hours a night in ignorance.
50 years. Half your life.
Just swallowed whole. Then another 20 years are consumed by the bewilderment, the sporting, and, the playing of childhood.
Right. At the other end of the biological spectrum, another 20 years are lost to the invalidity and deep anxieties of old age.
Yeah.
Because the body breaks down, the mind loses its sharpness, and you simply do not have the vitality to pursue deep self-realization.
Leaving us with that startlingly narrow 10-year window. Just 10 years of actual, fully conscious, capable life out of a century.
It really puts things into perspective.
It really does. I mean, modern society constantly feels behind on time. We are frantically rushing around trying to hack our productivity with apps and schedules.
Oh, constantly.
But the sources contrast this modern panic with a really profound perspective from the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca.
I love this quote.
He said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it."
Yeah, and the primary way we waste it is through what the Srimad Bhagavatam calls the Nidra Ajagara,
Which translates to what?
the python of sleep.
The python of sleep.
Yeah, we tend to view sleep as a harmless luxury or like a simple biological off switch. But the Vedic texts compare the material world to a dark forest. And unrestricted sleep is compared to an infinity-shaped python.
That is a visceral image.
It silently paralyzes the conditioned soul wandering in that forest. It just devours 50% of your life's energy before your spiritual journey even begins.
Okay, wait, I have to push back here.
Sure.
Calling sleep a devouring python feels incredibly dramatic. I mean, modern science tells us we need around 8 hours of sleep for basic brain health and cellular repair, right?
Right.
Are these ancient texts just advocating for severe sleep deprivation so we can spend more time working or meditating?
No, no, that is a very common misconception. The texts are not against biological rest. They are warning against unregulated sleep steeped in what they call tamoguna, which is the mode of ignorance.
Okay, so it's a specific type of sleep.
Exactly. The python represents the psychological escape of sleep. When people use sleep to hide from their problems, oversleeping out of depression, laziness, or just, a lack of purpose, that is the python.
Oh, I get it. So it is escapism.
Yes, it is not the necessary rest your body requires. It is the heavy, paralyzing unconsciousness that robs you of your vital waking hours. You are left unconscious in the forest of material life, effectively mimicking a dead body.
Wow. Okay, that distinction makes a lot of sense. But it brings up another huge question.
What is that?
If we only have 10 truly capable years left, after the python and the bookends of childhood and old age take their cut, why do we willingly waste those remaining years? Like, why aren't we fiercely protecting that single decade?
Well, it is because the soul often mistakes temporary material relationships for eternal protection. The sources use this really vivid imagery of a silkworm cocoon.
Oh, how does the silkworm fit into this?
So a silkworm literally spins the threads of its own prison. It weaves this tight, comfortable little house, and eventually that very house traps it, leading to its death.
Oh, wow.
And humans do something remarkably similar. We spend those precious remaining conscious years binding ourselves with ropes of affection.
Right, focusing on wealth, social status, temporary family dynamics.
Exactly. The texts describe an attached household as a dark well. We fall into it, driven merely by the impulse to satisfy our basic senses, primarily the tongue and the genitals.
It is like someone trapped in a burning house, but instead of running for the front door, they start carefully organizing the living room furniture.
That is exactly it.
We become experts at calculating the loss of pennies in our 401k or our bank accounts, but we completely ignore the fact that we are losing the supreme treasure of human life. We use our brilliant, capable years just to secure material comforts.
Which is exactly what uneducated cats and dogs do. They secure food, sleep, and mates. When humans use their advanced consciousness purely for those same three things, they are weaving that silkworm cocoon.
So if we only have 10 years left, the obvious question is, how is time actually passing? Because a decade to us feels very different than a decade to the universe.
Very different.
Our sources argue that time is a universal mechanic of destruction, but its scale is entirely dependent on the observer.
Yeah, it's completely relative. The texts provide a mind-bending breakdown of this. You have Lord Brahma, the cosmic creator within this universe, who lives for 311 trillion Earth years.
311 trillion, that is hard to even fathom.
I know. To him, a single 12-hour daytime is 4.3 billion of our years.
Insane.
Then you have a human being living for 100 years, and down at the micro level, you have an ant whose entire life cycle birth, building a colony, and death happens in just 24 hours.
And the truly terrifying part of that breakdown is that the psychological illusion is identical across all those dimensions.
Oh, absolutely identical.
Lord Brahma falsely believes he is the ultimate independent creator of everything. The human falsely believes he is the absolute center of his family and society. And the ant falsely believes its tiny dirt mound is the entire world.
Right.
But the ultimate outcome for all three is identical. Their physical forms are entirely consumed by time.
And to explain how we get trapped in this relative illusion, the sources use a brilliant modern analogy, driving in heavy traffic.
Oh, I love this part of the notes.
Yeah.
Imagine you have a 50-mile drive ahead of you. Under normal conditions, it should be a quick trip. But you are in bumper-to-bumper traffic. You see a tiny 20-foot gap open up in the next lane. What do?
You gun it.
Exactly. You aggressively slam on the gas, your blood pressure spikes, you cut over, and you grip the steering wheel just to hit the brakes at the exact same red light 10 seconds later.
It perfectly illustrates our pursuit of material progress. The constant braking, swerving, and stress hyperstimulate the nervous system. This causes a psychological phenomenon we can call time dilation. That simple 90-minute drive suddenly feels like an agonizing eternity.
And spiritually, we do the exact same thing with our 10-year window. We burn our precious limited time and our peace of mind chasing temporary sensory pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
We aggressively sprint toward a job promotion, a new car, or a bigger house, convinced it is going to make us permanently happy. But we just end up exhausted, stuck at the exact same existential red light with even less time on the clock.
Yeah, less time on the clock and way more stress.
We become so consumed by the micro-stressors of this daily traffic jam that we forget exactly where we are.
We falsely think the road is stretching far ahead of us, ignoring the reality that our 50-year sleep deficit is already locked in. The python is actively swallowing our time while we are busy honking at the car in front of us.
Okay, so if the python of sleep is our biggest enemy and the traffic of our senses is burning us out, is there a biological way to fight back?
Yes.
The sources introduce something called Ayurveda to optimize our bodies. So for someone completely new to this, what exactly is Ayurveda and how does it map our time?
So Ayurveda is the ancient Indian medical system, and it maps the human biological cycle using doshas.
Doshas.
Yeah, doshas. You can think of doshas as underlying biological energies that govern different functions in our bodies and in nature.
Okay.
And this ancient mapping actually mirrors modern neuroscience regarding deep restorative sleep perfectly. Ayurveda breaks the 24-hour cycle down into crucial time windows.
Got it.
The most important one for fighting the python is the pitta window, which runs from 10:00 p.m. to 2:00 a.m.
And pitta is described as the energy of fire and digestion, right?
Yeah.
How does that relate to sleep?
Well, if you are asleep during this 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. block,
Sure.
this metabolic fire focuses entirely inward. It performs the heavy lifting of cellular repair, tissue growth, and brain detoxification.
Oh, wow.
It is incredibly healing. It is the time when the body deeply restores itself from the wear and tear of the day. But if you force yourself to stay awake past 10:00 p.m., chasing entertainment on your phone or working late, that pitta energy shifts outward.
So if I stay up past 10 p.m. watching a movie and suddenly feel like I have the energy to clean my entire house or reorganize my garage, is that the pitta energy misfiring?
That is exactly what is happening.
Oh,
The fire is pushing outward, giving you a hyperactive second wind. And because that energy is now focused externally, it makes it incredibly difficult to calm down and actually fall asleep.
that makes so much sense.
And more importantly, you entirely miss that deep inward repair phase. You wake up exhausted because your body did not get to clean house.
Okay, so following the pitta window is the vata window, running from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Right. Vata is governed by air and ether. It is the lightest, most subtle energy of the day. If you wake up during this time, your mind naturally takes on those qualities. It is weightless, clear, and unburdened.
The sources mention that this early morning vata period aligns with something called Brahma Muhurta.
Yes, Brahma Muhurta translates to the time of Brahma, or the sacred creator's hour.
Right.
It refers specifically to the quiet hours, roughly an hour and a half before sunrise. It is a completely silent, distraction-free environment.
Right, before the world wakes up.
Exactly. Biologically and spiritually, you have zero cognitive load during this window. No emails are coming in. The world isn't demanding your attention, and therefore it is highly advantageous for deep spiritual receptivity.
So based on these biological energies, the sources outline a concrete 3-step schedule to align our sleep and reclaim our time from the python.
There.
Step 1. Go to sleep before 10:00 p.m. This lets you catch the body's natural melatonin wave and utilizes 100% of that pitta fire for internal healing. Step 2. Wake up during the vata phase, taking advantage of that zero cognitive load before the sun comes up. And step 3, strive for the yogic gold standard, which is shifting your sleep window entirely to 8:00 p.m. to 2:00 a.m.
Yeah, this ancient schedule proves that the old adage, every hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2, is actually biologically grounded.
Oh, I have heard that my whole life.
Right. You simply cannot replicate the physical and mental restoration of the pitta phase by sleeping later into the morning. If you sleep from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m., you get 8 hours, but you wake up groggy because you slept through the active morning energies.
Okay, so let's say a listener actually does it. They go to bed at 9:30 p.m., they wake up at 4:30 a.m., and they reclaim those quiet morning hours.
Okay.
How do they make sure they don't just spend that reclaimed time sitting in the exact same material traffic jam just earlier in the day?
Good question. This is where we move from biological optimization to the ultimate spiritual solution. The sources describe our default material life as a flat, two-dimensional wheel. We are trapped in an endless flat cycle of eating, sleeping, mating, and offending.
The texts refer to this as chewing the chewed, which is A bleak but highly accurate image of just surviving day after day.
It is the endless repetition of material survival. To break that two-dimensional wheel, you have to inject loving devotion, known in the Vedic tradition as bhakti.
So how does devotion mechanically change the shape of your life? I mean, does it just make you feel better about the traffic jam?
No, it fundamentally alters the psychology of your actions. When you center your daily duties around loving service to the Supreme Lord, you break the flat circle and pull it upward into a three-dimensional upward spiral.
Okay, I like that visual.
Think about cooking a meal. If you cook just to feed your own stomach, it is a flat, repetitive biological chore.
Right.
But if you prepare that same food with the consciousness of offering it to the divine out of love, the mundane action is suddenly infused with eternal purpose. Every rotation of your daily routine elevates your consciousness. Time shifts from being a destructive tomb that buries you into a crucible that purifies you.
Wow. The sources actually share a captivating story from the ancient epic, the Ramayana, to illustrate this kind of intense devotion.
Oh, this is a great story.
It is about Lamurna, and it is the ultimate example of conquering the python of sleep. Lakama vowed to offer 360-degree, uninterrupted, vigilant protection to his brother, Lord Rama, during their 14-year exile in the dangerous forest.
And he couldn't just fight sleep with his ego or, by drinking strong coffee. In the Vedic understanding, sleep is a formidable divine energy. So Lakama actually respectfully negotiated with Nidra Devi, the goddess of sleep. He asked her to leave him alone so he could perfectly serve.
But the goddess of sleep demanded that someone else had to take on his biological sleep quota. The universe requires balance.
Right.
And here is the beautiful part. Lakamana's wife, Urmila, who remained back in the kingdom, stepped forward with incredible love. She volunteered to absorb his entire sleep quota.
Amazing.
She practically slept continuously for 14 years so Lakama could stay awake day and night to serve Lord Rama.
It is a profound story that highlights a deep spiritual principle. You cannot fight the illusion of time or the biological demands of the body using merely material methods. But when you cultivate intense devotion, when you genuinely love intensely, you naturally shrink your bodily necessities. Think of a mother who easily sacrifices her deep sleep the moment she hears her newborn baby crying.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Her love overrides her biology. In the same way, intense spiritual determination frees up our time for higher realities.
But what does this mean for someone listening right now who isn't exiled in a forest but is dealing with, stressful corporate job and a busy family?
Right.
The sources draw a very sharp contrast between how materialists and spiritualists approach daily life. It comes down to the analogy of the steering wheel versus the spare wheel.
This is the crucial distinction for modern application. Materialists treat God as a spare wheel.
A spare wheel.
He is a backup plan, kept locked in the trunk, and only pulled out in emergencies when things go terribly wrong, like a health crisis or a financial collapse.
Right. Please fix this.
Exactly. Their actual day-to-day goal is to control the world themselves. But the result of wielding that material power is always an anticlimax. Worldly achievements inevitably fade, leaving deep frustration.
But spiritualists make God the steering wheel.
Yes.
He is placed at the absolute center of all daily action. You don't just treat spirituality as a tiny 5-minute compartment of your routine. You let it drive the car. You see your job, your family, and your talents as instruments for service. And the result of that psychological shift, the texts say it brings eternal, irrepressible joy, regardless of external conditions.
Because you stop merely surviving the material world.
Yeah.
You aren't trying to squeeze a drop of happiness out of the heavy traffic anymore. Instead, you wake up eager to see how you can serve in whatever situation you are placed.
To help put this into practice today, the text suggests 2 concrete daily rituals that tie everything together. First, an evening wind down. Honor that pitta cycle by intentionally dialing down your body's loud demands before 10:00 p.m.
That is key.
Turn off the screens, stop chasing the artificial second wind, and intentionally step out of the escapism mode. Give yourself over to the healing internal fire.
And second, establish a morning habit. Use those reclaimed Brahma Muhurta hours, that Vata window of profound mental clarity, to actively anchor your spiritual consciousness before you tackle your daily tasks.
The sources specifically suggest using this quiet time for chanting the holy name. By dedicating the very first fruits of your day to spiritual awareness, you ensure God is firmly gripped as the steering wheel for whatever traffic lies ahead.
It is the ultimate alchemy of life. You take the devouring force of time, you mix it with the fire of devotion, and you create the eternal present.
We have covered incredible ground today. We calculated the urgent, unforgiving math of our 100-year lifespan, realizing we only have a 10-year window of true capability.
Just 10 years.
We mapped exactly how to escape the paralyzing python of sleep by utilizing the Pitta and Vata Ayurvedic cycles. And finally, we learned how to transfigure time from a destructive force into a spiritual upward spiral by placing devotion in the driver's seat.
Which leaves us with a final lingering thought from these ancient texts. Every single sunrise and sunset physically steals a portion of your lifespan. It is an inescapable biological countdown. It steals your time, except for the moments you spend in spiritual awareness. Those moments are entirely immune to the destruction of time.
If our perception of time is entirely relative, as we saw with the ant and Lord Brahma, it makes you wonder. When we finally step out of that material traffic jam and anchor ourselves in spiritual awareness, does time actually stop existing altogether, or do we just finally start experiencing it at the correct speed?
A great question.
Something to think about as the sun sets tonight. The 10 years are yours to claim. Awake to the dawn. Until next time, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.